Okay, great.
Okay, I'd like to call the July 29th meeting of the Public Works and Urban Beautification Committee to order. Declarations, conflicts of interest. Anyone have any conflict of interest with any issues listed so far? Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
Good.
We okay?
Yep.
Do we need a mover and a second? Moved by Councillor McLeod, seconded by Councillor Tweel, that the minutes of June the 30th be adopted. I'm sorry, the approval of the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried 4-0. Approval of the agenda.
Adoption of minutes.
Adoption of minutes, sorry, for June 30th. Just one set of minutes. Do I have a mover to adopt the minutes? Seconder, moved by Councillor Tweel, seconded by Councillor Yankoff, that the minutes of June the 30th be adopted as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Carried 4-0. Business arising from the previous minutes. Passmore Street letters.
Could I just ask one,
Sure.
just under update capital projects?
Mm-hmm.
It's on page 5. I did bring this up with the Mr. Adams. Mr. Adams, the tender that went out for the for those 2 box culverts,
Correct.
right? I asked you this morning. That's just for the drawings, right?
Drawing and tender packages.
And they'll put together the tender packages. Okay.
Correct.
So will they be applying for the environmental permit?
On our behalf, yes. Yes.
Which there is a process that, because it has to go through DFO, right?
DFO and the Department of Environment as well, yes.
And do we have an estimated timeline for that?
Likely, they can't apply until they have the final, or the base drawing done.
Right.
Which we expect in the next 1-2 weeks, and at that point in time, they'll start the application process.
Yeah, because as you know, Mr. Chair, we're dealing with 2 waterways.
Yeah.
There's the Ellens Creek, and then you have the Capitol Drive, which is, I think, Billy Gates Creek. It's on the
Yep.
northern side of the Capitol Drive, so just, there's some tight timelines, and as you know, Mr. Adams knows that working on projects that interrupt waterways,
Yes.
there are deadlines before the fall season kicks in, so it's,
Yep.
we're moving quickly.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chair,
Yes.
just want to add one item.
Yeah.
It's the Rochford Square Gardens.
Yep.
Just want to talk about it briefly.
Sure. Okay.
So that'll be 7B, Mr. Chair.
Pardon?
That'll be 7B.
Yep.
Because 7A is Slow Street, so you think that was added, correct?
Correct.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Passmore Street letters, business arising from previous minutes. Passmore Street letters, what does that
This
entail?
is just 2 verbal updates
Okay.
from the last minute. So Passmore Street letters, so we started drafting that letter. We're working with our consultant to provide us a nice schematic 1-pager showing the 2 potential options. So we're hoping to have that done out to the residents sometime next week. Just waiting for our consultant on that part.
Good. Yeah.
And then Part B, the ADL tender, we have updating our tender document. And we anticipated going to finance for posting sometime next week as well, so.
Okay, great, great. I thought those were Passmore Street. I thought there were letters coming in.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Chair,
Just
I
Councilor
want
Tweel.
to thank Scott for that.
Sure.
And once those letters go out, is it possible to have just a neighborhood meeting?
In the letter, we're gonna ask for feedback from them, either via email or letter or phone call.
Right.
So my thought would be to wait to see what type of feedback we get. We have gotten some feedback already and very positive from the residents. They're very excited about it. So
All
at
depends
this
on what
time,
street.
I'm not sure how a neighborhood meeting would benefit if,
Well-
if everyone does, if we get a large percentage of the residents to provide us feedback. But we can look at it once we start seeing.
Yeah, let's look at it then, because
Sure.
it's great to say we're getting positive feedback, and that's great. But
Yeah.
if you're hauling the sidewalk out from one side, the people that are keeping their sidewalk, they would think, well, you know, maybe it's great or whatever the case may be. I just want to make sure I cover all the bases.
Absolutely, yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to reports under section 6.
Could I
Oh, sorry.
just interrupt for 1 second, Mr. Chair? Are we doing a closed session at all? Is there, I'm just wondering, like, Wallace had
there's
handed us
anything.
environmental, I would prefer that to go into the closed, I think.
Okay,
Like,
so,
And when we come to that item under section 7, you can move it out.
yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yep.
appreciate that, thank you.
Well, maybe we'll move that down to 7B, we'll switch them so
7A
then,
or whatever.
yeah, it'll be the last thing,
Yep.
okay? Going on to reports, we have 2 policies to hear from Mr. Adams about. Dr. Henry, congratulations.
Doctor now, wow.
Just point of order there, Mr. Chair, AVL tendered. and
Oh, I thought,
Oh, sorry.
I
Yes,
just
so
didn't-
the update is we have we're starting to work on our draft, updating our draft and modifying the old one to meet current standards and all that. And the expectation is to have the tender up to finance next week for public posting.
Thank you, Mr.
Yep.
Adams. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
all right, now we can move on to reports, the first one being a policy on signage for special needs children.
Absolutely.
Mr. Adams, would you want to take that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So throughout the years since my arrival here, we've gotten a few inquiries of signage for special needs children. We have a number of families in the city that do have children with varying needs. And there's never been a standard policy on how we implement and how we determine where they go. And there's no real, in the industry, there's no real guidance on this type of signage. It's more of a municipality to municipality determination. So I do support such an initiative, and that's why we wanted to kind of put a few parameters around it to develop this policy, to advise residents that if they are concerned about their child who does have needs, that they can apply for a signage, and it's a pretty simple application, and it is included in your package, the policy and the application. You know, we just want to offer this program to individuals in the city, and put these signs up to, you know, maybe bring a little more comfort to them when their child is playing out in their yard. So that's why we put it together, and I feel that it is a great initiative to be able to offer our residents something like this. The only parameter that really we've said about it is once a child hits 18, the signage would come down, because at 18 they're not a child anymore, they are an adult, and so that's one of the parameters that we will be putting around, or we're recommending putting around it. As well as right now, there's a number of these signs or varying signs that are around the city that we have no idea if those children still live in that area. You drive down some streets, I know there's been some signage up for years that's never been monitored. So we want to put in place some controls just to make sure that if the child does move from that area, we take the sign down, and if they move to another neighborhood, we'll re-erect it in that other neighborhood around their home. So just a couple parameters around that.
Okay. Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Thank you, Scott. In the past, when I made the request for signage for a special needs child, I pursued the police department. And it was the police department that would give the green light to put up a sign. So my question is now, is Public Works now taking the sole responsibility for installing these signs, leaving them up, and then taking them back when the child is no longer a child, is now an adult? So our police is not going to be involved in the process anymore, is that correct? As I understand it,
We
Scott?
would still advise them on it and ask if they have any, because they do have expertise in this area. But after talking with the police, things like this where there's been mandate changes in terms of reference for each department, we've added the traffic engineering items to the Public Works terms of reference. And so we've kind of determined that, talking with police, that would fall under this realm, so it
Okay.
would be more of a Public Works policy to administer, yeah.
I support that. I just wanted the clarification, because like I said, you know, all the years I've been here, I've initiated through the police department.
Yeah.
Not through
Yeah.
Public Works.
It's been historically handled by the police department, but let's face it, they're experts in the law enforcement, when
Yeah.
it comes to speed bumps and signage and all these sorts of things, and plus they're really busy, so anything we can do to assist, glad to do it. Councilman Clyde?
Thanks, Scott, for the report, and thanks, Mr. Chair. Just a question on, so, special needs child, but as an adult, say with Pat and the elephant,
Yeah.
that type of thing, so can they still apply, what's the, what do we do when there's a regular stop of Pat and the elephant on a street, like, for example, is there, I can't think if there is or not, there's a street in my ward that there's she still lives with her parents, but she has a job and she goes back and forth, and it ties up the street quite a bit, and
Right,
I'm just thinking, would there still be could they apply to have, I don't know if you'd want to refer to it as a special need, so that's,
I think if it was an unmet need of anyone, that's what we're in the business of, is providing solutions to unmet needs, and regardless of age.
And the reason I say it, because it also is it's a transit route as well. I mean, it comes this way, and
Yeah.
the elephant stops on this side.
Yeah.
So I just wonder, maybe there should be a sign. I'm just thinking, maybe I'll ask the residents if they're interested to
Right, yeah.
apply, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's just
And, yeah, I guess where we kind of, when we did put this together, we looked at what other jurisdictions are doing, and all of them ended at 18, these programs, because children, as they become adults,
Yeah.
they are more independent. They have, most of them are pretty independent. They're not playing out in the yards like children
No.
are either. And so that's more what the signage is for, is more for, there could be a child just
Just
because of
Yep.
their disability or their needs. They might more likely to run out in front of a car potentially. It just brings a little bit of comfort to the residents,
Yeah.
the homeowners, the parents.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, is that it for
Yeah.
that
No,
particular
okay.
issue? Oh, sorry, Councilor Yankoff.
Thanks for this.
Oh,
Will there be some communication? I noticed here in the recommendations that you'll take down possibly some other signage. Is that going to be, I would hate for it to be gone and then a resident,
of course, yeah.
so will there be communication before they're taken down?
Yes, the goal is we're going to try to knock on, if we're going to go, when we see the sign, we're going to try to knock on some of the residents' homes in that area. Usually it's we usually can figure out which home that the signs are, just based on their placement, which home that it was intended for. So our goal is to knock on the resident's home or drop them a letter asking them to let us know if the sign is still relevant, if there is still a child with special needs in the area. If we're unable to determine that, or if the residents say they're not, then we will take it down. But yes, we do plan to try to communicate, go directly door to door to them to make sure that we're not taking down any sign that's still warranted in the city. There are a few, there aren't a great amount, but there are a few. So we will take our time doing that to make sure that we're not taking down any signs without proper checks.
Right, because I know in some areas you'll see them that recognize hearing impaired.
Yes, yeah.
Well, once you're 18, you still have the hearing impairment.
Right.
So I'm concerned with the 18
Mhm.
because if you're somebody who has intellectual challenges, 18 is just a number.
Mhm.
And I just wondered where we came up with that number and why it would stop at that age. Yeah, just
Yeah,
curious.
and from research, my understanding is by 18, they've had a lot of training of how to, working out or walking out with traffic, getting on the sidewalk, what to check for. They've had so many years to balance that. And again, it's not so much, it's more so for children that are playing in their yards, in their homes. Because children, as we all know, as they get playing, they get distracted very easily. They get running around and can get very close to the road or even sometimes run out on the road. Once you're 18, you're not doing that as much. You won't be playing out your yard as much. So I believe that's where a lot of why the municipalities have, most of them have come across with this 18 limit. But again, we could always adjust it if we want to look at that. That was the recommended based on what we found during our research across Canada.
Thank you.
Councilor Twill?
Has there ever considered signage for people that are blind?
And so that would be considered a special needs, yeah. Yes, so we would, if for children under that nature, we would consider that a potential.
What about an adult?
So.
You know,
for-
someone that's 35 years old and finds it hard, well, I mean, I find it hard, not having any eyesight to be able to navigate up and down the street or find the sidewalks. I know we have the yellow, I think that's great, but I just wonder, is there something we could do for people that are blind?
Again, this is more for residential homes in this area where, you
Yeah,
know,
that's-
to have these signs up, and it's for specific homes, or that specific area where, in a residential neighborhood. To do a citywide, I don't know the effectiveness of that at all, because, you know, when you put signage up around the city, people start to ignore it. I did actually have a very productive meeting with the CNIB, and they did, yesterday actually, I met with them at noon hour, had a very productive chat with them. They were very happy with seeing some of the improvements we've been making at some of our intersections,
Yeah.
some of our crosswalks, and they told me in detail the training that they do with from when they're young all the way until they're adults. They train them, you know, their route to work, their route to the grocery store, and all the training. And so, again, that's kind of where by the age of 18, if they're young children, they you know, they have a very good routine down. They know how to get these places and all that. But again, if it's their specific resident, you know, and the parents would like to have the signage up, I would recommend them to fill out the application form, and we can definitely.
No, the
that
reason
in.
why,
Yeah.
you're talking about signage, I was just wondering if there's a specific sign for someone that's
And I
blind.
guess we have to look at that. I believe they have, so we could look at maybe just in the policy to include hearing impaired child or something of that nature. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
if you could
great
explore that, we'll
Yeah.
take it under
Yeah,
advisement.
sure. And we could include it in this policy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, could I just ask Mr. Adams, TAC, which is our Transportation Association of Canada, they have rules and guidelines for signage, and I know this came up with our previous city manager, public works manager, that the signage for children's playing, right, that is the only place where there's playground equipment. But when I was on council, they were going up all over the place, you know, because it was,
Yeah.
the intention was to slow down the traffic. Is there any rules and regulations for attack on the seeing, impaired
No.
seeing or impaired sight or impaired hearing?
No, and that's why, you know, we would have followed those guidelines and recommendation on that, but they don't really have any parameters around that, so the research we've done is based on how other municipalities have dealt with this matter, and try to tailor it to our city needs, of course, yeah.
But there are clear guidelines and rules in TAC for children playing signs, correct?
Playground signs, yep.
Yeah, and are we following the TAC guidelines?
We're
Attempted to?
currently, any new sign, yes. Any new sign, yes, correct.
And we'll talk about the TAC.
Yes, I just
yeah.
done it, because we're talking about signage. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to speed humps, which is always a popular topic.
Mr. Chair, if it's your intent to go with policy, we should have a motion to that effect.
Oh, yes, okay, back to the special need. Now that we've had discussion, do I have a mover and a seconder to bring this policy to,
I
Council?
move it, Chair.
Yeah.
But the manager also said he was gonna look into
Yeah.
some of the other issues.
with
that
the
we-
duly suggested amendments?
Yes.
To see what might be possible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, okay. It's been moved by Councillor Twill, second by Councillor McLeod, that the policy as discussed will be forwarded with amendments to City Council. All those in favor? All those opposed? It's carried 4-0. Now, another shot at the speed humps. Let's go.
Thank you, Chair. So we've, since I started about 4 years ago, I'm working very closely with the police on speed humps. And then since, again, as I mentioned earlier, since the letters of, or the terms of reference for each department have changed slightly, including traffic engineering, we've kind of taken this file over more so. Still under the advisement with the police. We work very closely with Mr. Ron Kennedy and the chief of police up there on this file as well. But we want to update the parameters and put a policy in place and clarify how the decision-making, what the process is with the application and decision-making, so that we try not to get into some sticky situations. And one particular situation that we're trying to avoid is putting up speed bumps on streets that there isn't a lot of community support. Speed bumps are very unique. Some people love them and think that they're great, and other people in neighborhoods do not want them. They don't. They will complain and complain and complain. And I know a lot of municipalities, previous municipality I worked for, Fredericton, dealt with this as well, is trying to make changes to the road, but trying to keep most of the residents pleased with the changes. Speed bumps can be annoying, can be loud, and people just do not like them. But again, other people love them, and they do what they're supposed to do. They do help slow down traffic, and they do discourage people from cutting through certain areas. So we definitely like them, but we just want to put a few parameters around them so that we can make sure there is good community support, and we're putting the speed humps in the right spots at the right time. There are some spots that they're put too close to intersections or too close to curves in the road. Areas where there is maybe not so much a speed issue in that particular area of the road, but there's more so up here. So we developed the policy, and then there's also a guiding document that we've developed and how we will look at each road, and how we would determine where to place it sometimes even some roads may require 2 speed humps just due to their sheer size of the road. So, like I say, we've been working at this for 2 years now. Since last year, we tried to make some changes, and we are quite pleased where we're at. And so we want to bring it to the committee to review, and hopefully recommend forward to council for adoption.
On this topic, Mr. Adams, is it possible, I'm not alone, but quite a few requests from cyclists that would like to see the city, when the speed hump passes over the white line, into the cyclist and that sort of path. Can the city slice that off so it's not a hazard to cyclists?
They are panels.
Pardon?
They are panels, right?
Yes, yeah.
So they can be lifted off?
We've tried it in some spots. And it depends on how width the road is. If you take out one panel, it might shorten it too much versus too far. The other issue is, and we've seen it firsthand at times, is drivers for whatever reason think it's a benefit to only put one tire over the speed hump versus 2. So what happens is you'll get someone swerving into the bike lane, and because they're maybe not paying attention or whatever, my concern is if they're swerving over that white line to try to avoid putting all 4 tires over the speed hump, they may in turn hit someone.
Yeah.
So by not extending it beyond the white line, we're maybe presenting an additional hazard versus making an actual improvement for cyclists. Yeah.
Question, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So, is there a possibility of having a lower speed bump like piece, and on these segments, could we buy ones that aren't quite as elevated? And have them like on the, because as long as the driver sees that there's a hump, he'll probably stay on the path that he's on.
Yeah.
And then it would be a little easier for cyclists, is there an option to buy something lower?
I'm not aware that would fit with the style of speed hump. There's only really this one style of portable speed hump. And there's really just the middle pieces, and then the end caps, which are the rounded ends to kind of smooth it off. We do try, if we don't have to send all the way to the curb, we do try to leave a bit of a gap so people can go around, but I'm not aware of anything where it does lessen that speed hump. Yeah.
Just to follow up, Mr. Chair. So if this policy gets passed, will councilors get an electronic version of this, or are you preferring? It kind of says, for the resident to contact Public Works. Is the idea okay, council? you tell the resident that you have to call Public Works? Or did you want us to kind of say, look, yes, I have the form, I'll drop it off? Like, what would
Either
you-
or, we would encourage, if you're hearing individuals who have concerns, if you have digital copies, absolutely,
Yeah.
please feel free to
Yeah.
send them the information. That's what we want, that's why we wanted to put all this information together. We found that residents were getting a piece of information from police,
Yeah,
police,
yeah.
it was.
It's nice just to be able to say,
Exactly, it's nice to have it,
Yeah.
and you guys, as council, everyone has something to reference to, and so do we as well. And so it makes it a lot easier that everyone has the same information at the end of the day. And absolutely, we would definitely will send this as a digital copy to everyone. Copy will be online as well. They can call Maureen or Wallace and get a copy. We'll even make sure the police have copies, because people are still used to going there. So we'll make sure it's available everywhere.
That works.
To make it accessible for everyone, yeah, absolutely.
A motion to approve it, Mr. Chair, as well.
Yeah, I just have one more, Councilor Twill, you have your hand up.
I just want to follow up what the chair said about for the cyclist. I cycle myself.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, it is a hazard, because you're going at a pretty good clip. Not all of a sudden, you gotta fly over that hump, and you try to veer off, you know, and you're off into someone's lawn to try to avoid the hump. So I think we need to take a look at that. And if cars are trying to avoid the hump, like, we're trying to become a more cycle-friendly city, and we're creating a hazard. So if someone was to get hurt, you know, they're going at a pretty good clip, and unexpectedly, they hit that hump that's over on the other side of the white line. I think we got to be careful on that one. It could be, you might even be challenged from a liability perspective from a cyclist that says, you know, geez, I'm trying to stay in the cycling lane, or the so-called cycling lane, and now you're hit with the speed hump. That's point number one. Point number two, so once again, there's a transition from the forms and the information on speed humps or requests. Residents would not be going to the police department. Instead, now they'll be coming to Public Works to get the information. So the question I have is, Scott, what role does the police play?
So we work very closely with police to, you know, if we start hearing concerns, and one of the things that we need is the community support. But at the beginning, we'll start hearing concerns about a speeding problem. So we will talk to the police, and I will call up the deputy chiefs and say, we're hearing this. Can you send patrol out? And they're really good at sending patrol out when we call them. Usually within a day, there's patrol out there checking speeds and monitoring that. At the same time, we're starting to collect our data, so we have traffic counting devices that can not only counts the volume of traffic, counts the speeds of the traffic, and there's reports that we produce for that.
Yeah.
So the police are out there. We work hand in hand to help bring improved enforcement. You know, their officers are on the road all the time as well, and they're seeing things that we may not be seeing, so we do talk to them. I talk to Ron quite frequently, Ron Kennedy, on that, you know, what kind of issues has he seen on a particular street, because there's some things, like, we're not out there all the time, they might see something that we don't, and so we do rely heavily on them. They have eyes and ears out in the community, and so we do work hand in hand with the police department on a lot of these matters.
Okay, so once again, the transition for the forms and applications, initial information is now Public Works. So if a resident asks, instead of me sending them to the police department, get the form, I'll now send them to Public Works.
Yeah, yes.
You did an interview back a few weeks ago, and you said that speed humps weren't really, I'm paraphrasing, weren't really let's say a deterrence for speeding. What did you mean by that?
I don't recall what interview that was.
You know, you did an interview and you said speed humps
Yeah.
is not, again, I'm paraphrasing here, Scott, that it's not really a deterrence to discourage speeding. You don't remember doing that?
I do not. Like I say, speed humps, what they do is help reduce speeds, but what ends up happening is you'll see, and we see it quite often when we do speed profiles. And what I mean by speed profile, we'll look upstream and downstream of the speed hump, and you'll see a vehicle speed up, come up to 50, 55, slow right down, speed hump, back up to 50, 60. So it's not a cure for the entire street speeding. It does in the area, and it's not going to cure everyone. Does it fix a lot of issues? It can fix some. It can change driving habits, but for some drivers, you'll still see that speed come up and down. And sometimes it can be a little more hazardous because some person may slam on the gas after they come off of it and not being paying attention, versus if you're at a consistent speed, you're paying more attention. So yes, so for an entire street, it may not be not a full deterrent of speeds. It does help, but it does have there are some negatives, just like everything. There's always pros, but there's always some cons as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Councilor Cloud?
Thanks, Scott. Just one more on this. Have we ever done the cost analysis on the difference between your speed bump and, say, one of those solar speed radars?
For the cost to buy them and the
is there much,
effectiveness?
I know there might be a little more setup, but at the end of the day, you don't have to take them up. Like, the humps, you're taking them up, you're taking them down.
Right, yeah.
Where this would stay constant, and I kind of question whether or not the digital display is a better force of trying to slow people down.
There's been a lot of studies on those, and what they find happens, and most studies are showing this, is they work really well in the beginning. Like people, darn, I'm speeding.
Yeah.
But over time, drivers get very comfortable, and you start to see the speeds go back up. People just start ignoring them. They have a good immediate effectiveness, but over the long term, they're not a good deterrent. So that's why you see the police have been using them a lot. They buy them more. They try to move them around so that people don't get used to them in one area. They kind of move them around. And that's a very good tactic to try to move them around in various areas, because when something's new in an area, people do pay attention. After a while, they stop paying attention. So long term, I don't know if they're really a great solution. The studies don't really show that, but they do initially make an improvement. We are looking at another traffic control or traffic calming device. We're doing some research on it now, and probably hopefully next month we're bringing it in. I've seen it before. Calgary does it a lot, and what it is these portable. I call it a portable island. Essentially, it'd be no bigger than maybe the TV over there, and it'd be about as high as your curb line. And what they're using these for is to kind of mock up intersections. And what I mean by that is, in some cities you'll see an island at intersection, an island at each approach, right? And what the island does, and it does it really well, it narrows in your laneway. So it creates an uncomfortable situation for a driver, and they're going to slow down as they go through that area. And so what Calgary does is they will set up an intersection looking like that. Or they'll put curb extensions, so they'll put it up against the curb to narrow it in from curb to curb maybe. And then they do some studies, and they'll leave them in place for a little while. I'm not sure exactly how long they'll put it in place, and they'll monitor the effectiveness. And if they find it works really well, then they make it a permanent. They'll change it all out. They'll put the concrete in and make it a permanent change. And then these get moved to another area. So I think it's a pretty neat what they've been doing. I've seen a couple reports on it, a couple conferences I've done, and it seems very effective. So we're doing some research now on some of the things they've been doing in Calgary with it, trying to get some costing, where we can source these things from. And it's something that my goal is to bring in hopefully next committee meeting to present in Public Work as another tool in our toolbox to try to combat some of these traffic concerns that we're hearing about. So we're definitely looking at other options right now. Again, speed humps, they're a great tool in the toolbox. We want to have multiple ones because there's so many different scenarios and different things will work for different areas.
When we were in the last Federation municipality meetings, there was a booth there, and they were selling or promoting. It was like a police on metal. It was spring loaded, so if you hit it, it would come back. And it had just a 3D picture of a police officer with a radar,
Mm-hmm.
and some of you have like a little solar light on people, just to tell you to slow down.
Right, yeah.
You know, and all these things are probably good reminders. I don't know if they actually have seen, I haven't seen them in use, but
Yeah.
when I seen it at the booth, I
Yeah.
thought, that makes a lot of sense. You know, and you can move them around.
Exactly, and I think
You
that's the
can move
speed
them one
display
street to
thing,
another.
yeah, in the
And
trailer,
just,
yeah.
You know, a smaller version of the big digital display that we haul around, right?
And people just need reminders.
Crosswalk,
Yeah.
they had one that, you know, there was all these different ones they had,
Yeah.
and they'd be this, but this high, right?
Yeah.
You know, and just, they get scared, and they see the
Yeah.
radar gun on the police officer,
Yeah.
like, the first thing you do is, whoa. So, it might be a good idea.
Yeah.
And then there are those people that have no intentions of slowing
No,
down, right?
Exactly.
Except for a ticket, just hit them in the
And
wallet.
sometimes those are the people that we're having a hard time figuring out, how do we get them to,
Yeah.
how to discourage their speeding and improve their focus on actually driving and driving safely.
Maybe we should stop paving streets, that just makes them go faster.
Can't do that, can't do that. And replace with ditch infilling? Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I just sent a photo and an email to all of you, including the manager and Wallace and Mr. Kelly. And it came from Mr. Rukavina. Eliza Jackson, she's the Transportation Demand Management Coordinator for the City of Halifax. And in the photo, she presents what they use over there for speed bumps. It's a flatter one, but it's wider. So when you get an opportunity just to take a look at this policy that we're looking at, it's not set in stone. We can amend it as we go along,
Any policy.
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. Policies, yes, I think it's a great starting point, and we're always open to updating and improving it as technology changes, as information readily available, as we find, does this work for the city of Charlottetown, does it not? We're definitely open to updating policies. Really, the main purpose is so that everyone's aware of how we're trying to apply it. Is it working, is it not working, and to modify it from there.
So on the traffic calming, that was one of the issues that the senior management of police brought to our attention when
Yes.
we met with them in closed session, that we have to start working more with Public Works. And
And not
appreciate,
just speed bumps.
and that's why I appreciate it at yesterday's meeting for environment and sustainability, the discussion about slow streets.
Yeah.
Again, these examples already exist in Halifax. And neighbors of mine who lived in Halifax find that they work very well, they're living here now, and are asking, why are we not doing it? But I think, Mr. Chair, at the police committee, and I had to leave the meeting, you talked about police presence in the neighborhood.
Yes.
You know, if we're looking at speeders,
Yeah.
we need more police presence in the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And I know that has been said over and over again. I know we're concerned about the bypass and the speeds that they're going, and the actions on those roads are more severe, but you know what, we still have problems in our streets. As Councillor Yankoff and I were down to see Mr. Casey this morning, one of his staffers lives in Oak Drive, and she said, Philip, I've lived there for 50-plus years, it's just speed. So, you know, again, we just have to remind that we do have other ways of slowing speeders.
Yeah, of course. And that's what we're trying to do, especially that having summer students who, they're young engineers, they're very keen, they're doing lots of research, they've been helping,
Good.
some of these reports you're seeing today and these policies, they've helped written and form them. And they are very valuable assets since we started having that engineering program. And so that's part of the work that I have them doing is researching what other cities are doing. You know, there's no sense of us trying to reinvent the wheel. Let's see what everyone else is doing across the board. Reaching out to counterparts at other municipalities, see how this works, what issues they had. So we're doing lots of that now, and you'll start to see more and more. And that's why you're starting to see more and more policies pop up across here as we get more research, as we start to fine-tune processes. We want to get them on paper so that everyone's aware of how we're trying to put these things in place in the city. And so you'll keep seeing more and more policies come across as we keep doing more research and bringing new solutions to the city.
Knowledge is power, Mr. Chair. Knowledge is power.
Councillor Twill.
Yes, that presentation talked about traffic calming, and yes, councillors have been raising the issue consistently about speeding in the neighborhoods. Now, one of the issues that I brought up as a result of attending the Canadian Federation of Municipalities Conference, the annual conference, was when I went around to some of the different exhibits in the trade center component is speed cameras in the neighborhoods. Now, speed cameras were tried 20-25 years ago, but that was mainly for the 401, and it became a major issue. So now it's dramatically changed. That no longer exists. Speed cameras are in the neighborhoods, school zones, around parks, in older neighborhoods. And what I'm asking or making the suggestion, Mr. Chair, is why don't we do a comparative analysis, pilot project, say traffic calming versus a speed camera in a couple of neighborhoods. So we could do an assessment evaluation of both what works, what is really the best deterrent, and what gives us the best bang for our buck, and where the people that constantly speed, particularly what we're trying to target, is the neighborhoods. Like I said, the school zones, in around the parks, whether it be neighborhood park, district park, regional park, the older neighborhoods. That's where we're getting most of our concerns, where people keep raising the issue time and time again. The bypass here in the city of Charlottetown, I don't even know why we're policing the bypass. It's not our jurisdiction. That is owned by the provincial government. We don't maintain, we don't do any maintenance work on the bypass. That's Mountie territory. So, Mr. Chair, I just bring that as a suggestion. Sure. And maybe we can discuss it further, but it would be nice to do a comparative analysis. This is coming right from the Canadian Federation of Municipalities, and I can tell you, the province of Ontario has enacted this, and it's something that they're deploying throughout municipalities in that province.
I assume when you mention speed cameras, that you're talking about the ticketing, right?
Photo radar.
Yeah, thank you.
Is that-
It's a speed- they refer to it as speed cameras.
Police department. on that.
I read another article on the weekend in the Chronicle Herald, and if you want, Scott, I can bring that article or bring it in and give it to all members of the committee.
Okay.
Mr. Just to clarify, so are we talking about photo radar?
No, I don't think so. I think we're talking about our cameras that we presently exist.
The
that shows
e-watch?
us-
No.
These are photo radar.
But that's provincial legislation.
Yeah.
Is that not provincial legislation?
I don't think we should get off on that
Thank
tangent
you.
right now. Let's get back to the agenda. It's a point well taken, Councillor Trio.
Can we discuss that?
Mr. Adams, can you put it on the agenda for next
Yeah,
meeting?
that's fine.
That should
Have to
go
go
to,
to police.
it'd have to go to police.
Yeah,
That's photo
a
radar.
thing. So we can
Provincial
forward that
legislation.
request to the police to see if they would.
Well, but the thing is, Chair, the only reason why I bring it up is that police tried to unload it to Public Works,
Yeah.
saying that speeding is a Public Works issue.
No, it's a law thing.
Pardon me?
It's a law thing. It's-
It's right on, but they tried to unload it. So that's why I bring it up. If we're gonna look at any type of traffic calming, why don't we do a comparative analysis?
Yeah.
Right?
Mr. Chair, just to clarify, so I think what the senior police management, correct me if I'm wrong, is that they're looking at working collaboratively with Public Works, with other departments, to look at this in a holistic way, instead of all of us staying in our silos.
Yes.
Yes, it's a police issue, I understand that. Yes, we need more police radars in neighborhoods, but I think what Scott and what our Environment and Sustainability Committee are saying is that let's look at how people can learn to slow down, because we're inhibiting their speed track.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Oak Drive is a straightaway.
Yeah.
I'll,
As is Greenfield Avenue. as-
Greenfield,
We have a lot.
North River Road.
Yeah,
we have.
they all are.
They're all over the city, but I'll make a motion if you'd like, Chair,
Yeah.
to accept the policy of Public Works.
Before we get to that, Councillor McLeod, could I just make to wrap this up, and we will follow up on your deal.
Just wanna look at it.
Yeah, we'll put it on formal agenda and take some time, that we're off the track now, and
Yeah.
let's finish this agenda, and we'll shoot it in the next one. Mr. Adams, could you just touch lightly on the fact that with the COVID-19, that our speed hump process is a little altered?
Yes,
Okay,
I
so we're
appreciate
not
that.
following this right now because of, since the month of March,
The
right?
main change that has come up is we're not encouraging people to go door to door and ask for signatures and ask for support from their neighborhood because of COVID. So what we are encouraging people now is typically we require them to sign that document. So it just makes it easier for us. It's all in one place. But for this year, they can email in, the resident can either email in their support for a speed hump or call the Public Works line. And all they have to do is leave their name, their civic address, and their phone number, and that's all the information we need. Just throwing their support behind a particular speed hump request. Yeah. So
Could that letter that you forwarded to me there
Yep.
6 weeks ago,
Sure.
could it be forwarded to all council
Yep,
members?
absolutely. Yep. I
Okay.
thought I did, but I will make sure I get sent
Okay.
along after this
Thank
meeting.
you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor McLeod, you
Get
want to
that
move?
I'll move the motion to accept the manager's report.
Okay,
Second.
moved by Councillor McLeod, second by Councillor Twill, that the speed hump policy be adopted as presented today.
Yeah.
All those in favor of the resolution? All those opposed? It's carried 4-0. Thank you very much on that. The next one, information only, street signage manual.
Yeah, so I guess we always get a lot of questions of how we do our signage, where the information comes from, and how do we make decisions where to put it. So what we've tried to do is develop our own living document, I guess I should call it, or our own manual, but it's a living document. So in Canada, everyone across the board follows the Transportation Association of Canada in providing direction on anything traffic related, whether it's signage or how to build a road or traffic calming. They're kind of the go-to people. They bring all the experts together. They publish manuals that have been reviewed from people, experts across Canada and North America. And so they've published this document, and it gets updated quite frequently, but it's called the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices in Canada. And the goal of this document is to standardize traffic control across Canada, so that if I go driving here or go to BC, I'm going to understand when I get to an intersection or I'm driving down the road what the signs are trying to tell me. And so they put a lot of work in this document, and it is a very thick document that has a lot of information, a lot of research goes into it, and they provide a lot of this stuff in this document. Well, it's kind of hard to expect staff in the field to have to go through this and figure out what the proper placement or what the proper height or where the sign should be in relation to this object. So what we tried to do, and again, my students have been phenomenal. I've had them comb through these manuals and start putting this, like I say, a living document together to provide guidance for our staff. So when they go out in the field and I got to install a new speed sign, well, here's where it should be placed, here's how far it should be from the edge of the road or side or curb, and here's the height of it. And then that way it makes sure that we start standardizing it across the board. All our neighborhoods are signed the same way, all our residential streets, everything. So that it does twofold. Every driver knows what to expect when they're driving down the road, all the information, where the sign should be located, but it also helps with liability too, making sure that we have our signs installed at the proper location so that if someone goes through a stop sign and didn't see it, well, it was installed in the right place, it was the driver error. So it's kind of twofold. We want to make sure our staff are educated on the document, how everything should be installed, but it's also an information document for council, for residents, to see where we're taking this information, why we're putting a sign in the spot where we put it, and the rationale behind it. So that's why we want to put together and bring it to committee here to provide it as an educational piece. We will definitely make it available online as well. Again, it is going to be a living document, so we will be changing it. We'll be adding more specific pieces that really are for Charlottetown, maybe intersection one way, but it's just to really make it a one-shop document type, a one-shop stop document for our sign crews.
It's also going to all of council, so they're
Yep,
aware
of course.
proper protocol
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
Question,
Pardon? Okay, we'll have some questions if there is any. Councillor McLeod?
Yeah, so Scott, so the children playing sign,
Yes.
so we're putting them at the school areas only?
With the playground.
So playgrounds. So
Playgrounds,
the Technically, they're called playground signs, but they've been adopted as the children playing sign.
Yeah.
It's commerce, traffic commerce.
Yeah, and
Kids playing.
yeah, and we put them at, if it's not in a school zone. So for instance, school zones are more stringent. So if there's a playground that falls within a school zone, we will encompass the school or the playground within the school zone.
Right.
But if it's a neighborhood park, that is visible from the road. So that's another big thing too. It has to be visible from the road, because if you put up a sign that says school or a playground and you're driving and you just see homes, it's kind of, it's people don't realize, okay, it's not effective enough, I guess. It's nice to see, you're supposed to be able to see the school or the playground from the road as you drive by it. And the placement of the sign is 50 meters from the property line, essentially.
Right.
So here's the school zone, or here's the playground, starts here.
Right.
You go 50 meters in both directions to sign it.
Right. So, I guess where I'm leaning is, so a street that has a lot of children, not so much a park.
Yep.
But there is a lot of neighborhood children running back and forth in the streets, and the residents want the symbol of
Yeah.
children playing.
Yeah.
So, is that still in place, or have we?
We've been pulling back on that.
We've
We
been
haven't
pulling-
been,
okay.
been putting those up. And the reason why is, there's a few reasons and a few concerns. As a driver and driver education, you're always told, treat neighborhoods as any school. And every driver should be treating every neighborhood as there could be children anywhere. Because then you get into the issue if, for instance, I put a sign up on this street, but the next street over, there were kids playing as well, and one child gets hit. Hopefully it never happens. How do we determine, at the end of the day, how do we determine to put that sign on that street but not on this street? It could be a liability, it could be a major concern for the city, and so you can't sign the whole city, so it's that liability. Do you sign it for individual streets? Then it can look that you're giving preferential treatments to certain streets or certain neighborhoods, and it's a very hard thing. And neighborhoods change yearly. You know,
Right.
it could be no kids this year and kids galore next year. So we recommend that maybe a better education program, or maybe we can look at or some type of campaign to remind drivers that treat neighborhoods like there's children everywhere.
It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, and I guess that's, yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
where I'm going with this is, you know, we just passed a policy for special needs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a resident that says, well, wait a minute,
Mm-hmm.
you know, my child is just as important. I mean, we have 9 kids on the street. Maybe they should apply just like anything else, right? And over time, we'd say, okay, that's been 10 years since we installed that, maybe we should ask the residents, you know, is it time to take that out of there?
Right.
And put it somewhere. That's where I'm kind of going with that, because it is, you know, children playing sign
Yeah.
is important. I don't know if it works or not, that's another question. But
Yeah, they don't have a big effectiveness, no. They're an information sign, they're not a,
Yeah.
they're not a legal,
Yeah.
there's no enforcement around it, it's just a information.
Yeah.
And the effectiveness is not they're not effective. And so I hate, like I say, I understand where you're coming from, and it's really hard to pick and choose which neighborhood gets children playing signs, which doesn't. And then if, heaven forbid, we had to go defend ourselves in court, how do we choose, how do we tell someone, how do we put a sign there and not a sign here? That's where I have a hard time with, how do we,
well, they
how do
would
we deal
have,
with that?
well, for me, it would be, they would have to, the neighborhood would have to apply for that sign.
Right.
Just like the special needs or anybody else.
But then I think I think we'd open a floodgate, then every street would want it at every end, and.
Well, there would have to be some
Yeah.
parameters, like, you know, the children, there'd have to be a half a dozen children with, under the age of 10 or something, like, you know, well,
It's-
but, you know, it is an issue, you know, not so much maybe up at City Hall, but from a political point of view, you know,
Yeah.
people want those signs, right? If they feel safe knowing,
Yeah.
even though, like you know, the real technical side says
Yeah,
no, they're not.
they don't, yeah, they give a, yeah.
But to the residents, you know, there's no sidewalks on either side of the street,
Yeah.
and they say, look, you know, even if we just had a sign saying children playing, you know, I guess that's where I'm coming from, and I just hate to see.
Yeah, I struggle with it too. It's a tough one.
It's tough.
It is, because it is, we are having, there's more traffic on streets,
Oh.
there's more people cutting through. I think one of our best defenses is more looking at different traffic calming measures. I think that we start to deter traffic from cutting through neighborhoods, making it more difficult for them to cut through neighborhoods, making it more difficult to speed. I think if we start approaching it from that angle versus trying to sign
Yeah.
various streets in various locations, I think that's the more permanent solution versus.
I agree,
just-
I
Yeah,
agree.
I think that's my preference, is
Yeah.
to start tackling it that way.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Trio?
I want to follow up Councilor McLeod said, and I agree with him. We do get a lot of requests for those children's playing signs because of the speeding through the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Which keeps coming back to the same thing. But I don't know if anyone here in the chamber's noticed, the residents have now taken upon themselves to go out and purchase signs. I don't know where they're getting these signs from. And they're all over the city
I
now.
think it's Provincial Realty.
It is.
Had
Yeah,
a program,
it is,
yeah,
yeah.
I think that's a great initiative.
Yeah, but I mean, well, that's my point.
Yeah.
That's my point. So the things that we're talking about, we're saying we don't want to do, but the residents are saying, well, we're going to put them up. So now residents are putting up these signs, and they're all over the place about speeding. We got children, slow down. So Chair, it's the same message, whether they put them up or we put them up. And personally, I would like the city of Charlottetown to be leading and providing those opportunities and fulfilling those requests, because you can just tell that the residents obviously are putting these signs up all over the city because speeding is the issue. There's young children in the neighborhoods and they're scared, and it's evolved whether we agree with the logic or from a technical point of view or not. The residents are saying, technical or no technical, speeding is a major issue in our neighborhood. We have small children, and that's why you're seeing these signs are all over the place now.
I just
So-
asked the question, Councilor Trio, are they effective, though? Are they slowing the people down? We have tried things that we thought would
Well,
work.
the thing is, Chair,
and didn't.
the thing is, do you know what? Maybe from a psychological, maybe from where they sit, maybe they're trying to do everything humanly possible.
sure, I understand that, yeah.
They're trying to do everything humanly possible to try to make the vehicle traffic aware that there's small children here, slow down. People have got other different types of signs, slow down. So there's a message there. There's a message there, not just for the vehicle traffic, but to us as well, that all these neighborhoods are experiencing speeding traffic, and that's why I'm looking forward to our next meeting, so we can explore a couple of options, and maybe we can do that comparative analysis and do a trial run on a couple of these different
Yeah.
methodologies. But Mike, I'm telling you, the signs are everywhere.
Oh, yes, I understand that, but is it slowing them down? I think the most effective thing to slowing people down is this.
I agree with you.
Yeah, you're right.
It's
I'm with
this.
you. I'm
We
with
can put
you.
up the most glorious signs in the world, neon even. But if the
Yeah.
guys and gals can't take their foot off the gas pedal, it's all money wasted. You gotta get them with this. And in order to get them with this,
Yeah.
you've gotta have a police car in the residential areas with radar and nab them.
I don't disagree with you.
And
I'm with you. I'm
I've
with you.
preached that time
I'm
and time
with you.
again. And I
I've been
hope the
preaching on it.
signs that they're putting out now, I hope they do work.
Terry, that's why we talked about the traffic
Yeah,
unit.
yeah.
Oh, no,
I think we're all in agreement. We're just coming at it from a different angle.
Different angle, but I'll move to accept that signage report. And
No, it's just information.
It's just.
yeah, we do have to accept it.
Has to be received by committee and reported
Okay.
as well.
So you want to,
Just that we're going to receive the.
okay. And who wants to second that? Councilor Yankoff, moved by Councilor McLeod, second by Councilor Yankoff, that we receive the information, street signage manual.
Yeah.
Discussion? No. All those in favor? All those opposed? 4-0. Shutouts all the way through. Shutouts.
Good day.
Good day.
Or zip.
Good day.
Could be 3-1.
4-2 for Toronto last night.
I know.
Moving
Play
on.
Saturday night too. Going to be another winner.
Great. Heaps. We're going to move on to the tender area.
Oh,
Tenders area.
that's the one I like.
Tender area.
It's a tender area.
Let's move really fast here. McAleer Depot paving.
Well, let's not put that in the minutes.
Tender area.
Very tender.
So we have, you'll see on your agenda, there's 4 items. 3 of them are here today as in draft resolution form. The 4th one does close this afternoon at 2 PM, so we'll be forwarding the draft resolution for review shortly after we receive the closing bids and have reviewed them. So the first one is for the driveway resurfacing a portion of the current McAleer facility. It has not been resurfaced since it was built.
Oh.
It is in, I don't know if many people have driven around it lately, but it is just not pretty. So this is for the paving a portion of that to fix that up and make it a lot safer for our vehicles and our drivers in and around there. We do require a budget transfer, as you'll see on the summary page on the back side of the resolution. And we recommend taking the funds from another capital account that is no, this is the wrong, sorry, my apologies. I think the wrong document got in here. We made an adjustment to where we're recommending taking the money from for this work. There's a capital line item account that is for HVAC upgrades, but since we're doing the Honeywell contract and doing all that work with all municipal buildings, that funds will be sitting there, so we recommend taking money from that account to pay for the resurfacing of the McAleer facility.
What's it under again, Mr. Adams? What?
It is under municipal buildings, the HVAC line item.
Oh, we're not gonna do the HVAC this year?
Well, you might be aware with the Honeywell contract, so Honeywell's doing the master review of all the facilities. And then at that point, depending what direction we go, that funding may be fronted from a different pot of money or upfronted by Honeywell. So that's for another discussion, but we believe those funds will be there, yeah.
So we'll go back in next year's, because every year I've been on budgets, City Hall, HVAC.
We have done some HVAC repairs over the years, and it's now back in operation.
Yeah.
As part of again, the
Sustainable.
analysis that will be done on time and payback through
Good,
the
sir.
safety.
Yeah.
So I'll adjust this draft resolution, send it around later again today. I thought we did change it, but we'll change that again.
Yeah.
Do you want to vote on this one now, though?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
It has to be forwarded to finance.
Finance.
Yeah, okay. We have a recommendation?
Move.
Yes.
Yeah.
Move by Mayor Brown, second by Councillor McLeod, that the tender for the, sorry, I'm one ahead. The tender for the City Works driveway and parking lot resurfacing submitted by M&M Resources in the amount of $137,000 plus applicable taxes be recommended to council for approval.
And
All those in favor?
Mr. Chair, you also have to include that this money will be moved from.
Will transfer take
Municipal
place later,
Just
would
in the
it?
background.
That's in the background.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, sir.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 4-0. Number 2, Mr. Adams?
Certainly. So this is the construction of new and replacement of a couple existing sidewalk locations in the city. This includes the new installation of sidewalks on Johnson Avenue, Arcona Drive, Messer Avenue, Yorkshire Avenue, and then the replacement of sidewalks on Dorchester Street and North River Road. We received one bid, and it came slightly over budget at $33,000, which is not unreasonable, and so we will have to do a small budget transfer from
HVAC?
What's that, sorry?
From City HVAC?
No, not that one, no, we, from our sidewalk curb materials.
Money's there.
Okay, any discussion?
Could I-
Mover?
Mr. Chair, just under the budget for the capital budget for Public Works sidewalk, it says Arcona Drive, Messer
Johnson.
Avenue, Johnson Avenue. What other one did you say, north of a road?
Yep, which is Elms Creek one, I think it's
Is
worded as that.
Is that where you're gonna do it, up there by?
So it's where the white picket fence is now?
Yes.
Yes, so that's been failing, and we've had it fail the past couple of years, and the reason why it's lower than the road, so everything just sits there in the middle of winter, cracks everything up, so we're bringing it back up
You're
to
gonna
level.
build it
Yep,
up to grade,
correct.
to
Yep.
the road?
Yep, build it up to grade to the road, through that area, yep.
Okay, got a mover?
Yeah.
Moved by Counselor Twill, second by Counselor Yankoff, that the number, that the,
And for 2020 sidewalk.
yeah, I'm on the wrong page again. I was reading the notes behind, that's why I get left on the next page.
You're just ahead of yourself, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
No, you're just ahead of yourself.
This tender is for the public tender for 2020 sidewalks, the submission by Earth Forum Corporation in the amount of $449,565, plus all applicable taxes be accepted. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passed 3-0. All right, number 3, Mr. Adams, please.
So number 3 is the pedestrian crossing upgrades. This is upgrading Great George and Fitzroy Street, as well as Longworth Avenue and the trail over by the 1911 jail. So we had received one bid from Island Coastal, and it did come in over budget. One of the main reasons it came in over budget is we originally intended to use the existing overhead pedestrian signals that are at Great George and Fitzroy. But because of how we have to move infrastructure and make everything work in those areas to bring in the curve, so we narrow in that thoroughfare, we cannot use that system. So we're going to take that system down, we'll refurbish it. We are always looking at crossings around the city, how we can make improvements, so we will use this at a new crossing, so we'll reuse that. So that's why it did come in over budget, because it's about $100,000 line item to purchase and install that type of system. So that's primarily where the overages come. So we do highly recommend that this work does get done. It's big safety improvements to 2 major crossings where we do have a lot of near misses. And we have had a few pedestrians hit at the Great George and Fitzroy. So we do recommend approving this, and we will do a budget transfer for this work as well from another capital account.
Well, it says HVAC.
Yes, and I just noticed that, and I think I got my.
How big is that budget
I know,
anyway?
I
It's
got
only 200,000. This is another document, Ian Wallace.
No, I
We got the real
apologize.
one, we got the phony one.
I do apologize. Number 1 is the documents are correct. I do apologize.
That's all
I got
right.
confused. Peter and I had a discussion yesterday afternoon, and
Well,
I had my.
Yeah, but he's got the real budget, we don't.
So, yes, we're in the summaries in the resolutions are the proper where we recommend to take the budget from. So I do apologize for the confusion.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Counselor Twill, you have a question? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, on the point raised briefly about the mayor, we may have to build in the transfer into the motions because we're doing.
I think you have to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll move it, yeah.
You're moving it?
Yeah.
Counselor
second it.
Twill moves this recommendation.
I'll second.
Second by Counselor
Mr.
McLeod.
Chair, just now, it's on the floor. The corner, I know you know that corner,
Yeah.
the Fitzroy Great George Street corner.
Yeah.
But if we're coming in on, I believe you're going on the north-south of Great George to bring it in? To bring in the curb?
Yeah, the east and west are coming in.
East and west, which would be Fitzroy.
Yes, so we're narrowing in University. University's really wide there.
Great George is.
Yeah, or sorry, Great George, correct, yeah. Great George is really wide there, so we're narrowing in Great George. And it's the same as I was talking before, and I'll definitely send around the document so you guys can all see what it is. I'll try to get it cleaned up because there's a whole bunch of lines and notes on it that can get a little confusing, so I'll ask them to send me a nice clean.
It's similar to what they're doing in Halifax with, what's the main street down with the convention center?
Argyle?
Argyle.
Yeah.
Argyle and one of the north-south streets, same thing. But what about the buses that come off in front of the Ocean 100? How will that?
Nope, they still have more than enough room.
Okay,
They kept all, yep, we've had those.
Because that's our main trunk.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's pretty similar, Scott, wouldn't it be, to the Fitzroy Street project when we were
Yeah.
there, and
yeah.
it's pretty well that.
It's
that
all the
line,
same,
right?
exact
So you
same
can see
thing,
how-
yeah.
Same idea, right, cool.
Yep.
Okay. We ready for the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? 4-0. Okay, I don't have another one. Pathways? You do have another resolution for pathways?
So that's the tender, close to stay at
This
2.
afternoon,
We'll send
okay.
around the resolution,
Okay.
draft resolution, once we had time to review and make recommendation.
Okay, so
And
now we're
Mr. Chair,
going to...
just in
Yeah,
AVL tender, that'll be coming at a future meeting?
AVL,
Yeah.
yeah.
So as I said earlier,
Yeah,
be up to finance, hopefully, our goal is next week,
Yeah.
and then 2 weeks until it closes, once
Thank
it's
you, sir.
posted.
Okay. Could we have a motion to move into a closed session?
You're on 7A, Rockford Square.
Oh. All right, go, Counselor Twill?
Thank you. I was approached by one of our employees that has worked previously on, and maybe still does, on the whole creation of the gardens down in Rockford Square, especially the high part of it. I think Kevin Smith was heavily involved with that as well. I'm not sure in what capacity, but the gentleman brought it to my attention, and maybe Scott, you could follow up, that he'd like to see Kevin Smith, who has passed on, recognized for his contribution. He was talking to a family member, might have been Kevin's daughter, and maybe we could put a little, I don't know, a little plaque or something with his years of devotion to that whole garden, especially the part there across from the church, and something about that employee's involvement. So I bring it up, Chair, to see if we can have our manager pursue that and maybe bring back a report to the next meeting, or maybe Kevin, and you know Kevin well.
Yeah.
And maybe we can recognize him in
Well-
some form.
Counselor Twill, I should have spoken to you beforehand, but I was talking to the same employee.
Yeah.
And he asked me to approach the department for that very object. I got to thinking, I didn't want to kind of set it up as a precedent for future sort of things of doing that way. So I went back and spoke to the same individual you did speak to, and I told him that I personally would fund the plaque without my name being attached to it,
Right.
just as recognition for Kevin's hard work. And we would ask his daughter to draft the plaque, and then we would take it. The gentleman you're speaking of, and the two of us, between the two of us, we'd do it, and have it placed, and just recognizing his efforts. He passed away, in March, Kevin?
Okay.
From COVID-19.
But I don't think you need to pay for it. Mike.
Well, I
think
don't
it comes
mind.
out of- No, I appreciate
Yeah.
that, but it comes out of our budget.
Yeah.
And then there was another component, I don't want to discuss it
Yeah.
publicly.
Yeah,
But I think it'd be nice,
well, maybe we'll talk about it.
yeah, but I just wanted to bring it up because it's sentimental
Yeah,
to
sure.
him, because he worked with Kevin,
Yes.
you know, who I'm
Yeah.
referring to. And then there's another aspect of it that I don't want to discuss
Yeah.
publicly.
I understand.
But it'd be nice to recognize him.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, because he brought it up in the public forum,
Yeah.
there's quite a history of
Yeah.
that garden, as you
Yes,
know.
yes.
The neighbors that live on, is it Old Souls Lane?
All Souls Lane?
Yeah, Old Soul, and like Angus Orford's sister.
yeah.
Heather Orford were very integral in putting together funds from different sources. So I just, Mr. Chair, if we could just look at a piece, we shouldn't do this should not be done in a
No.
piecemeal fashion. I know we talk to people on the streets or in the coffee shops, but like, we have to remember, and I think you were on council, Mr. Chair, when this started to develop, that we have to incorporate that it was a big project.
Yeah.
That was neighborhood-led, and I know Kevin Smith did a lot of work.
Yeah.
But the neighborhood really got behind this, and I think they did get money from the Sherwood Parkdale Lions Club for the initial investment. If you can look into that, Councillor McLeod.
It would be Parkdale Sherwood.
Oh, sorry. I like that. George Trainer always said Sherwood Parkdale. He never said Parkdale Sherwood. Anyways, if you could, Scott, if you don't mind, like,
No,
there's
definitely.
a greater history.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I appreciate
I just have to,
Appreciate
Mr.
it.
Chair,
Yeah.
again, just wanted to
yeah,
stress the significant role that Kevin played,
Yes.
especially that component of the gardens, because Kevin did play a significant role with that
Yes.
when it was first created. And like I said, Chair, we'll discuss it a little later. I'm sure there's many people who are involved, but he did play a very significant role.
oh, definitely.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
thank you, gentlemen. Now we can move into closed session. Thank you. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councilor McLeod, second by Councilor Yankoff, that we move into a closed session.
After the meeting.
Stand by.